Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another tier list using Tier Maker, this time covering all of the legendary heroes that are currently within Total War Warhammer 3, playable on the campaign. So there are also characters on the campaign known as unique heroes. Now those are not classified as legendary heroes, but they're characters that you can only really get one of in any particular campaign, and they're usually just a variant of a generic hero that has a unique trait or something like that. So I decided not to add them into this tier list here because most of them will be compared very poorly compared to an actual legendary hero. So I really want to focus on just the legendary heroes here. Anyway, before we get into the actual tier list itself, I need to let you guys know that this video here is sponsored by Manscaped. You guys know I've been with Manscaped for ages. Love the product, love working with them. Last month I spoke about the Chairman Pro, the new waterproof electric razor. Well, today I'm talking to you about the Chairman Pro package, which also arrives with Power Shave Gel. This lubricating formula is specifically designed to work with the Chairman Pro to deliver you a smooth and comfortable shave, and also comes with the Face Shave Soother, aftershave serum to hydrate your skin and help reduce redness and ingrown hairs. Having a shave in the shower has never been more comfortable with the Chairman Pro. Check out Manscaped with my link in the description and pinned comment. If you order before December 1st, you can score a Black Friday sale and get 25% off instead of 20%. Big thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Okay, with that being said, let's get into the tier list itself. Now, the first thing I want to do is establish some criteria for these legendary heroes, because I want you to really understand why I'm putting any particular character on S tier as opposed to D tier, even if you necessarily disagree with the placement, as long as you can see where I'm coming from with these legendary heroes. Because I usually don't rate anything just on one particular factor. So here are the different criteria that I'm going to use. So the first and most important thing is how good they are on the battlefield. You know, are they able to take out single entities with ease? Are they able to take out mass amounts of infantry? They're good spellcasters, if they're a spellcaster. That's the first thing I want to take into consideration. Then the next thing is, do they boost any particular units in your army when attached in? And do they provide any global bonuses? Most of them don't provide global bonuses, but some of them do. And then the next thing I want to take into consideration is actually how available these legendary heroes are. Some of these legendary heroes are only available to one specific faction and can't be recruited by anyone else. Others are available to a wide array of races and can be recruited by multiple different factions. So you'll basically have access to this legendary hero more often as you play through your campaigns of Total War Warhammer 3. And so that will be taken into consideration in terms of their ranking. All right, let's get into it and start off with Karanak. So Karanak is a Khorne-focused legendary hero that is a three-headed fleshhound of Khorne. It has multiple different races that can actually recruit it. It's available to the Demons of Chaos, which at the moment is just Scarbrand, but soon we'll have access to 2 more legendary lords for the Demons of Khorne. Then you've got the Demons of Chaos, so Daniel the Demon Prince is able to recruit Karanak, and also Warriors of Chaos factions that are either undivided or focused on Khorne, so Valkyr. Now, in terms of what Karanak is bringing to the table, he is able to boost Chaos Warhounds and, of course, Fleshhounds of Khorne. Now, I don't consider Fleshhounds of Khorne to be particularly useful, even within the Khorne as a faction. I just think they're kind of a mid-unit, and even with all the boosts that Karanak is able to provide, I still don't consider that to be really worth making like a doom stack of those units. I've tried it, I just didn't think it was very good. However, Chaos Warhounds can actually be really good within the Warriors of Chaos faction because there's just so much that they can do to boost it. And then chucking in Karanak in there as well can boost them even further. So that can actually be really potent. In terms of global bonuses, doesn't provide any that I'm aware of. And is a decent melee fighter, mainly used to take out spellcasters because they're able to silence them. Got a pretty good like a Spirit Leech ability, but overall I think that Karanak is kind of mid-tier. I'm going to put him at B tier there. Like, definitely not a bad legendary lord. B tier, in my opinion, is not bad, but not like exceptional, especially when you're considering some of these other legendary heroes. There's no way that they're that Karanak can be considered a match for them, especially the next one here. So moving on to Ariel. Ariel, we're going to immediately put her in S tier. She's fantastic. Doesn't have as wide array of availability as Karanak, as only the Wood Elves are able to recruit her. And Dryka, it's basically impossible for Dryka to get access to Ariel. But theoretically, there is one possibility. I've never actually seen it happen, and you guys have to let me know if you've ever seen this happen. But basically, if you're playing as Dryka, and if Dirthu manages to actually obtain Ariel, theoretically, when you confederate Durthu, because it's the only legendary lord that Dryka is able to confederate, you should also get access to Ariel. But I've never actually seen that happen, so you guys will have to let me know if that is even possible to happen. But all the other Wood Elf legendary lords can get access to Ariel. So Ariel has some really good global bonuses, able to increase the recruit rank of your lords and heroes. Very useful, because there's not a whole lot of things that the Wood Elves can do to boost that. That's very useful. Is able to boost the army with specific boosts, especially in regards to Winds of Magic cost. And is just an amazing spellcaster herself. She comes with all of her own equipment, so you don't have to kit her up with your own hard-earned loot, essentially, your own blue items. She comes with all of her own stuff. She's got some really good bound abilities. She's got some amazing spells, like such as Dwellers Below and Soul Stealer, really good spells. She casts them very cheaply. She is able to wipe out entire armies of infantry essentially by herself. She's good against infantry, she's good against monsters, and she's good against single entities. But she is a bit of a glass cannon, because while she doesn't have heaps of armor or ward save, and she's a fairly large target, she can be picked off quite easily with high-powered missile attacks. So if you're going up against Ariel, the best way to deal with her is to shoot her as quickly as you possibly can, because otherwise she will inflict mass amounts of damage very quickly, and she's able to terrify units off the battlefield very quickly as well. So Ariel is a very good legendary hero. In my opinion, actually, Ariel is is the best legendary hero in the entire game, but you know, there are going to be a few legendary heroes that end up in S tier. So, you know, I'm sure a few people will be like, oh, Ariel's not the best, it's going to be someone else. That's fair enough. But I personally think I get the most value out of Ariel compared to everyone else in here. Okay, then moving on to Theodore Bruckner. So Theodore is available to any of the Empire factions. And I think that Theodore is kind of not very good. Doesn't provide any global bonuses. Does come with some of his own equipment. So you don't have to kit him up with some of your blue stuff. But I don't think his equipment is very good. And the boost that he provides to his army is isolated just to Demigryph Knights. It would be great if it was available to just cavalry in general. Because Empire does have access to some pretty damn good cavalry now. And Demigryph Knights, while they are good, they're very late game to get, and they can be very expensive. So I usually don't want to make it like an entire army of Demigryph Knights. Now, that being said, you can attach them into an army and only have 2 or 3 Demigryph Knights if that's what you want. But I just don't think you're going to get a lot of value out of doing that, because he only boosts their weapon strength by 10%. It's not a big value. In terms of his value on the battlefield, though, he is a good melee fighter, and then that's obviously his thing. Not really amazing at taking out mass amounts of like infantry, because he's just not really able to mass kill them very easily. And while he's on his Demigryph mount, he can actually get surrounded quite easily and take a lot of damage. And he doesn't have any passive regen abilities, but obviously playing as the Empire, you do have access to life magic. He's best used to hunt down lords that maybe don't want to go into melee, hunt them down, pin them down, and kill them quite quickly with Theodore. So that's the main thing he's good at doing. But the thing is, the Empire has plenty of tools for doing that already. So I just don't think he's exceptional in any way or provides a huge amount of value for the Empire. So I'm actually going to put him at C tier. I just don't think he's a very good legendary hero. Okay, then we've got Kha'Zix the Befouled. So Kha'Zix is only recruitable by Tamarkan, but the other Nurgle legendary lords can recruit him by confederating Tamarkan, because Tamarkan will get him on like turn 2. But the thing is, the later you recruit him, the more likely that Tamarkan, the AI, will do more of his chieftain missions, which will provide various boosts for Kha'Zix. So basically, the later you confederate him, the better. But anyway, Kha'Zix is a great legendary hero. Basically, I consider him to be a better melee fighter than Theodore Bruckner, because he's, in my opinion, on a better mount, the Rot Beast, as like a Rot Knight. And he is able to regenerate by default. In my opinion, his combat stats are better. I think he's faster, and he provides way better boosts to his army, especially in regard to speed, which is especially useful for Nurgle-based armies because they're bloody slow as hell. He provides huge boosts to Rot Knights, which, in my opinion, are some of the best cavalry in the entire game. In my opinion, Rot Knights are better than Demigryph Knights. Obviously, these are 2 races. Don't really compare them, but I think the Rot Knights are better. So I'm actually going to put Khazak the Befouled at A tier, because I think these two basically serve very similar roles. I just think that Khazak is just so much better at what he does than Theodore Bruckner. Also, playing as Tamarkan, for example, you just get him super early, like turn 2. Okay, then we move on to Isabella and Vlad von Carstein. Now, you'll probably be a bit confused as to what Vlad is doing there. Vlad's not a legendary hero. Well, actually, he is. He's both of these characters here are legendary heroes and legendary lords simultaneously. Now, most of the time, in 99.999% of the campaigns, you will see Isabella as the legendary hero. In order for Vlad to be a legendary hero, you have to play as Sylvania, and you have to have your starting lord start as Isabella von Carstein. That is the only way for Vlad to be the legendary hero. So I will take him into that consideration, but the accessibility of him on that is pretty minimal. Most of you have probably never seen Vlad as a legendary hero, but yeah, you are able to do so. So, in my opinion, it is much better for Vlad to be the legendary lord if you're going to be playing as Sylvania, because I think that his faction effects when you choose him is better than Isabella's effects, but that really does come down to a subjective experience. In terms of their skill lines, whether they're legendary lords or legendary heroes, they basically provide the same effects. The thing is, though, when you have Isabella at the start, she already starts off with her chalice, which in my opinion is really useful at the start to provide healing for your other characters, whereas Vlad's equipment will only really make him stronger as a legendary hero at the start. You don't have to do his quest battles for gaining his equipment. So in terms of rating them, I think that Isabella is an S tier legendary hero. You got vampire magic, you got boost to your army, really bloody useful. But I'm going to put Vlad at A tier. Actually, no, I'm actually going to lower. I'm going to go B tier. Here's the thing to qualify this. Vlad is obviously amazing on the battlefield, no doubt about that. But basically, I think you basically shouldn't have Vlad as a legendary hero. You should have him as a legendary lord. He just provides better bonuses that way. So that I'm basically having him ranked down 2 places as a legendary hero because he should be the legendary lord. Now, here's the thing. If you're like, but Isabella is a really good legendary lord as well, here's the thing to keep in mind. You can actually simultaneously have Isabella as a legendary hero and as a legendary lord. Now, this is really sort of finagling stuff. Okay, so you can only do this if you play as someone other than Sylvania. So let's just say you're playing as Heinrich Kemmler. If you're playing as Heinrich Kemmler, what you want to do is actually wipe out Sylvania. Just get them killed. Then revive them. When they revive, Isabella will come back as a legendary hero and as a legendary lord. Then confederate them, you get both. But you'll only ever get Vlad as a legendary lord or a legendary hero, because playing as Sylvania, you cannot wipe yourself out and revive yourself. It's just not possible to do that. Now, that is a really weird way to think about it, but that's what I'm going to take into consideration here. Obviously, Vlad is a really good fighter, really good spellcaster, very hard to kill, but I just don't think he's good as a legendary hero, and that's why I put him in B tier. Okay, now moving on to Felix. Actually, let's do Gotrek and Felix at the same time. That'll make a lot of sense. Okay, so Gotrek and Felix. They are available to more factions than anyone else in the entire game. They are available to all of the Empire factions, all of the Kislevite factions. I think, I'm actually not sure about Estankia, I would assume so. Available to the Cathay factions and the Bretonnian factions, and also available to all the dwarf factions. Yeah, of course. And Malachi McCason starts off with them by default, so start off with them. So that's really useful. Available to so many different factions. Now, how they were initially implemented was actually really bad, and they probably would have both ended up in D tier. In fact, Gotrek wouldn't even be on this tier list because he was a legendary lord up until very recently. Now they are recruited by doing a somewhat challenging quest battle, but once you get them forever. They have their own equipment, for their weapons at least, so they don't get fully kitted out, but they also have a skill line now, and their skill line for the both of them is really quite good. So in terms of Felix specifically, I'm going to put him at A tier because he is able to provide some pretty decent boosts for the army, does provide some global bonuses, and is able to really provide a lot of support for other heroes that are fighting right next to them. Next to him. So he's a good fighter, he's able to be unbreakable, and he's able to provide support around him. So there's a lot of value in having Felix attached to one of your armies. And then, of course, Gotrek, I'm actually going to put him at S tier because he basically is a better melee fighter than Felix, which makes sense. Can also be killed a lot quicker, but having Felix and these two together makes more sense than keeping them separated because they're stronger when they're fighting together in the same army. But also, Gotrek provides very significant bonuses for the entire army that he's attached to, based on the various like grudges that he's got against, like grudge against the Beastmen, for example. So really bloody useful, especially for the dwarfs, providing ambush defense chance. So Gotrek is going into S tier there. Really strong fighter, boosts the entire army that he's attached to. Really, really good there, so S tier for him. Which is funny because his original implementation was so bad that he would have ended up in D tier. But anyway, he's really good now. Okay, then we've got the green. No, actually, no, maybe we should go Ulrika next, since we're doing the Gotrek and Felix novels essentially. So Ulrika is very much tied to their stories. So Ulrika doesn't have as much accessibility as these two, in that she's only available to Kislev and the Empire and to Malachi Makasin. So he can recruit her. He doesn't get her automatically by default. The other dwarf factions don't get access to her. I don't think it's possible for the AI Malachi Makasin to recruit Ulrika. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, you guys let me know if you've ever seen that happen. I've never seen it. Because, yeah, if Malachi was able to recruit her, then that would mean you could technically confederate her as playing as Ungrim. But again, I've never seen that happen. Similar sort of situation to, like, with Ariel that I was explaining with Drycup. But anyway, with Ulrika, she is a really good melee fighter. She's a good horse archer. She's a good spellcaster. And she provides some decent bonuses for the entire army, especially in regard to campaign movement range when she's attached into an army. And especially for Malachi Makasin, that is his only way of getting access to the Winds of Magic. Legitimately. There is still the possibility of obviously stealing heroes. You can still do that in the game, but that's kind of an exploit, so let's not take that into consideration too much. So as for Ulrika, due to her accessibility, how versatile that she is, she's got no upkeep costs. She's just basically a really good all-rounder. I'm going to put her as a legendary hero all the way to S tier because she is doing a lot for the factions that she's attached to. I wasn't really super fond of her at first, but the more I've used her, the better I've thought that she is. Shadow magic is quite good. Horse archery is very useful. She's good at taking out single entities. Good in melee. She's able to regenerate. Just really quite good. And also her follower that she has attached to her allows you to generate Winds of Magic faster. So for your spellcaster armies, there's really no downside to having Ulrika around. Okay, then we're moving on to the Green Knight. So the Green Knight is only available to Bretonnian factions, and the Green Knight is crap, basically. So I'm going to put him straight away into D tier. This is a character that is probably going to get updated at some point because Creative Assembly said that it's on their to-do list to do that. Yeah, the Green Knight is basically shit. He doesn't have a skill line, doesn't have any unique equipment. He shows up for a short amount of time and then disappears, and then you can resummon him again, but his actual value on the battlefield isn't that much. Because he is a good fighter, especially in the early stage of the campaign, but that's it. Doesn't boost the army, doesn't provide any global bonuses. And the thing is, your other paladins will basically sort of outpace him as they get equipment and as they level up. So you really only need to hire him when it's an absolute emergency, and he's more useful in the early stages of the campaign than in the later stages, especially considering now more factions than ever have access to like magical attacks, which absolutely destroy him because he's sort of ethereal. He's got a lot of physical resistance. Physical resistance just isn't as valuable as it used to be. So yeah, D tier for him. He's just like, only a good fighter. That's it. That's all it's got going for him. Okay, then we've got Garagrim Iron Fist. So Garagrim is great. He's available to all of the dwarf factions. All you can do is recruit a bunch of slayers, and then you'll get access to him. This guy is basically just like Ungrim Iron Fist, but a hero. Which makes sense, I guess. I mean, he is his son. Boosts slayers by a ton. Is a really good fighter. Easy to get. No downsides, really. Put him in your slayer army. Put him in with Ungrim Iron Fist. Works really well. So I'm going to put him at A tier because I don't think he provides any global bonuses. He's not really that unique because there are now plenty of Slayer heroes running around, like generic ones. And I don't think he's as potent as Gotrek. So putting him on S tier, I don't think is quite as worthy. But yeah, I also think that he's better than B tier. Again, with Vlad, he's only there because I don't think he should be a legendary hero, basically. You shouldn't choose him as a legendary hero. But he is very strong. I just want to make that point again. Okay, now moving on to Seitang the Watcher. Available to any of the Cathay factions, so there's 3 of them currently in the game. Seitang is really good fighter, very versatile. Good melee fighter, but primarily like an artillery archer. Provides various bonuses to the entire army. Completely free of upkeep. Probably one of the biggest legendary heroes in the entire game in terms of size, which can actually be a bit detrimental. Just because the bigger you are, the easier it is to shoot you down. But that being said, he's super long range. So I think that Seitang the Watcher is a pretty good legendary hero, but is on the same tier as Karanak. I think he's quite versatile, good on the battlefield, but isn't really doing much else than that. So that's why I'm going to put him in B tier there. Like, again, B tier is not bad. Like, C tier and D tier are bad. B tier is just kind of average. Whenever I've gone up against Seitang, I never really thought he was that dangerous, compared to some of the other legendary heroes. So I'm going to put him at sort of maybe high B tier. I'm going to put him there. I usually don't rank them in terms of which is the best S tier, which is the worst B tier, sort of thing. Just because, honestly, it can be really hard to differentiate between, like, who's better, Seitang or this one here, especially because they're not part of the same faction. So I just try to keep them on the same level. So no distinction really between Seitang and from this one here, but I just did that in that case. I don't know why. Anyway, then we move on to Gorich. So Gorich is a Skaven legendary hero, is only recruitable by Clan Moulder, but everybody's able to confederate Clan Moulder, so you can get Gorich as Snikch. All you have to do is confederate Moulder, because yeah, he'll always end up getting Gorich quite early. Gorich is a really good legendary hero, very good fighter. Obviously sort of a rat ogre, a mutant rat ogre legendary hero. Really good fighter, quite quick. Has some pretty good army bonuses as well. It's able to boost monster units by an absolute ton. So obviously attaching Gorich to Throt the Unclean and giving him any kind of monster army is going to provide you a lot of value. So I think that, and is able to boost the growth juice generation by a little bit, but again, that's only going to benefit Throt the Unclean. So I'm going to put him at A tier because Gorich has actually kind of a weird thing going on with him in that if you steal Gorich, and again, I probably shouldn't take this into consideration, it's just that I've done this before and it's really good. If you steal Gorich, so let's just play you playing as Bellicor, but this is what I did. I vassalized Moulder, and then Gorich found himself into an army that wasn't Throt the Unclean. I stole that army, but Alliance borrowing, and then got Gorich wounded, which allowed me to steal him. And then I attached Gorich into an army of Bile Trolls, and it just made those Bile Trolls so fucking strong. So, because he provides like a missile resistance aura and spell resistance aura. He boosts monster units regardless of what faction the monster units are from. So Gorich is actually kind of more useful in the Warriors of Chaos in a troll-based army than he is in the Skaven. Kind of weird like that. It's like Archaon kind of getting his chieftain back by doing. Obviously, I was playing as Bellicor in that specific case, but nothing's stopping you from doing that as Archaon. So I would highly recommend doing that if you're playing as Warriors of Chaos. Steal Gorich and put him in a troll army and just see how fucking strong he makes those trolls, especially Bile Trolls. So really, really good. Again, I shouldn't be rating him based on that, but that's my personal experience, and it was really good. Okay, so then we move on to Harold Hammerstorm here. So Harold is available to any of the Warriors of Chaos factions. He's undivided, so I don't think he cares which one he's attached to. I don't think he's available to the Demons of Chaos, so just the Warriors of Chaos, so all 8 of them. the Warriors Chaos factions. So this guy is on foot, doesn't get a mount, does come with some of his own equipment. He's got some really cool missions that if you do them, like his Chaos Boons, if you do them, it makes him considerably stronger. This guy's a really good melee fighter, provides some really potent bonuses for the entire army. The only thing you've really got to watch out for, though, is that one of those bonuses provides flaming attacks for the entire army. And if you have flaming attacks on your entire army and then go into fight Chaos Dwarfs, probably a bad call. So don't bring him anywhere near the Chaos Dwarves, or just don't select that particular skill before doing that. Because, yeah, that's going to actually be detrimental, since all their best units have quite a bit of fire resistance. Actually make your army weaker against it. But, yeah, he's a great fighter. He's unbreakable. He can get regen through a reasonably common item, a green item, enchanted item called the Everlasting Crown of Conquest. You can easily get loads of those in the course of a campaign, as well as a Chaos, so regenerating him is no big deal. Very strong fighter. He's got some air effect ability with his Hammer Slam. Really good at fighting duels, good at taking out mass amounts of infantry, pinning down the enemy for long periods of time, boost the entire army. Really good legendary hero. You also get him very early on in the campaign, in my opinion. So I'm going to put him at A tier, because I don't think he's exceptional at anything, but he's really on the same tier as these guys here, in my opinion. Like a really good legendary hero. Okay, so then we move on to Coadil. So kind of comparing Coadil to Ariel, because they're available to the same faction. It's just that Coadil is actually a little bit more widely available, because Dryka pretty much always recruits, AI Dryka recruits Coadil now, and all of the other Wood Elf factions are actually able to confederate Dryka. It's just that it's a one-way street for most of them. So, for example, Orion can confederate Dryka. Dryka cannot confederate Orion. So that means that playing as Dryka, it's very hard to get Ariel, maybe even impossible. But playing as Orion, it's not easy to confederate Dryka, but you can do it. And doing so will get you Coadil. So all four of the, whichever one you start off with, you can get Coadil without too much difficulty. Okay, so Coadil does not really provide any global bonuses, nor does he boost the army by any meaningful amount. But what he does do is smash the enemy army quite considerably. He's got like multiple of the abilities that regular tree lords will only be able to get access to one of. So he's able to get more. Basically, he's like a more powerful treeman lord, but as a hero. He's got some devastating abilities with his spellcasting. Very cheap, very potent stuff. Mostly focused on sort of like evil magic. So he's not a healer by any means. You know, Flock of Doom, just dark magic, that kind of stuff. Because he's kind of like a corrupted tree elder. Coadil is really good on the battlefield, and that's basically it. But treemen are very powerful, like good in melee, very strong spellcasters. So definitely not bad, just kind of one-dimensional, just good at killing anything, I guess, and scaring things off the battlefield. But in terms of where I would place him, I think I have to place him in B tier, just because he's only good at one thing, which is fighting on the battlefield. And while that is one of the things I weight heaviest, he is pretty much as good as killing as some of these ones here, but these ones are able to provide significant other additional bonuses. So that's why I'm putting him there. Or they're just like widely available to more factions. So that's why I'm putting him at B tier there. Like, again, B tier, not a bad faction. Bad rating. Okay, then we've got a bit of a weird one here, but it is actually rated as a legendary hero, and that's Krell. So Krell is weird because he's a summon. He's not a character that can show up on the campaign map. But is attached to Heinrich Kemmler. And the reason why I'm going to rate him is because it's actually quite interesting how Krell works. And it's actually not too bad. Krell is a summon, and he does get stronger with various skills through Heinrich Kemmler's skill tree. The thing is with Krell is that he's able to be summoned, and if he gets killed, then in the very next battle he can be summoned again. So there's so much incentive to just get Krell killed in every single battle and actually provide you with a lot of value, because you just get him back the next battle. Whereas other legendary heroes or legendary lords, even like Vlad, if they're killed on the battlefield, you still got to wait at least some time for them to come back. Like obviously Vlad comes back in like one turn, but he can be killed multiple times in a single turn as long as you're fighting multiple battles, which that will probably happen in some cases. And every vampire count legendary lord is able to confederate Heinrich Kemmler without too much difficulty. So yeah, it's available to essentially 5 different legendary lords, because there are 5, the 5 ones in there, that playable at the moment at least. I think there are more coming. Obviously, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Let's not speculate too much. But anyway, bit of a weird one with Krell. Strong melee fighter, but that's all he's got going for him. Doesn't provide any boost to the army because he's not attached to the army. He's attached to Heinrich Kemmler specifically. But yeah, a weird way of dealing with him. In terms of his overall implementation, I think he's a C tier legendary hero because, in my opinion, he's kind of more valuable than the Green Knight by a significant margin, and is about on par in terms of their combat capabilities with Theodor Bruckner. And again, Theodor Bruckner only marginally boosts his army's strength. So if he's a better fighter than Theodor Bruckner, and he can be killed multiple times in a single turn, it doesn't matter, I think he should kind of be rated maybe higher than Theodor Bruckner, even though he's just a summon. Maybe later down the track, if Nagash ever shows up, he'll have a bit more impact, but that hasn't happened yet. So again, speculation we should probably avoid. But yeah, interesting character if nothing else. Okay, then we move on to the Golden Knight. So Golden Knight is available only to the Kislevite factions and is specifically useful for any army that has a fair amount of Tsar Guard and Ice Guard units, because those are the units that she boosts. She's a okay melee fighter, probably about on the same tier as Theodor Bruckner. But where she is better than him really comes down to the boost that she's able to provide for those additional units. She's just got a wider array of abilities. She's also able to provide a bit of extra global bonuses in terms of relations with other Kislevite factions, but that isn't really that big of a deal for anyone except for maybe Ostankya, which, she's got her other things going for her, so it's not that big of a deal. In my opinion, attaching her into Katerin's army is the ideal thing to do, but in terms of an overall package, she's okay. I think she's kind of belonging in B tier because her capabilities on the battlefield are not fantastic. The boost that she does provide, while decent, don't make up for the fact that she is just not as good of a fighter as any of these here. She's not a spellcaster, so she's not going to get as many kills as Ariel. And the boosts that she's providing just aren't that significant. B tier, I think, decent place to put her, and that's where she belongs. Okay, then we've got Gordhar's Backstabber, which is a legendary hero for the Chaos Dwarfs. So 3 factions will be able to recruit him. Gordhar's is a bit of a weird one, because he's weak. He's not a good fighter, but what he does for the Chaos Dwarves is exceptionally useful. And I think when regarding S to D tier, we need to take usefulness into consideration more than anything. The thing is with the Chaos Dwarfs is that they've got super strong units, but they have unit caps on them. And a unit type that has no unit caps on them is Hobgoblins. And so in the early stages of the campaign, when you simply just cannot recruit, 20 blunderbuss units, you're going to have to recruit a bunch of Hobgoblins or Laborers. Hobgoblins are way more efficient though, because they're just significantly better. Now the thing is, with Gordhar's Backstabber, he's got no upkeep cost. He used to, but now he doesn't. But he boosts Hobgoblins by such a ridiculous degree that it makes them pretty much like a really good army. Basically takes them 2 tiers above what they normally are when attached to his army. He also provides global bonuses for them as well. So he's able to provide huge amounts of ammunition, huge amounts of just combat stats, stalking for these units that don't already have stalking, extra speed bonuses, just a really good amount of boost for those units. So the fact that he is not really that good of a melee fighter, probably the worst of the melee fighters here, the fact that he's able to provide so much boost for a Hobgoblin-based army means that I'm going to rate him quite highly. So the main thing, like combat prowess, is his weakest point, and that's the thing I need to weight the highest, so he's not going into S tier, but because his other areas are so good, he's going into A tier. Very good legendary hero, very good in the early stages of the campaign. And he's got some pretty cool abilities as well, like he can summon some Hobgoblins in each battle. He's got some ability to heal. He's got a decent amount of wards. He's got some luck-based stuff as well. So really useful, versatile hero, especially for a Hobgoblin-based army. What I like to do with him is attach him into an army that has a lot of the Wolf Raiders. So you increase their speed, increase their ammunition by a non-trivial amount, like double their ammo or something, and increase their speed. So they actually have a lot of ammo, so a lot of killing potential. They're so fast that the enemy can't catch you. And even if you do end up running out of ammo, they're actually kind of decent in melee. And he boosts their leadership as well, because otherwise it would be quite cowardly. So can make those units quite significant. And also it's just makes them cheap as well. Okay, so then we move on to the Blue Scribes. So the Blue Scribes is available to be recruited by any of the Demons of Tzeentch factions, so that's the Changeling or Kairos Fateweaver. Able to be recruited by the Warriors of Chaos factions that are undivided or Tzeentch focused, and is able to be recruited by the Demon Prince. So this guy is a bit weird because of his spellcasting. A very high potential, but sometimes you might just get unlucky and just not get very good spells. Basically, the more spells he learns, the cheaper all of his spells become. But the spells that he has available, there's 6 that'll be available at any given time, just random. So you cast a spell, and then you get six more that'll be available. And sometimes you just might get 6 shit spells, and you just can't really do anything about that apart from resetting it. However, giving him a ability on like a bound ability on his other side, something like I don't know, say channeling stuff or something like that, will allow him, anytime he uses any ability, it will reset his spells. So if you give him something like that, you don't have to necessarily waste a spell of any kind in order to just reset your skills. That way you can shuffle around for what you actually want. However, that does take time. So he's got a lot of potential. It's weird. You know, sometimes you get good spells, sometimes you won't. The longer the battle goes on, the more winds of magic you've got, the more opportunities that you'll have with him. He's got a pretty decent missile attack. That's like not part of his winds of magic spellcasting. So he's okay in melee, and he boosts the Tzeentch horrors by an absolute ridiculous degree. So pretty versatile hero here. I would put him in S tier if it wasn't so bloody random with his spellcasting. So I think he belongs in like this middle section here. Like in between. You know what if I put him at like the top of A tier, but really he's at the bottom of S tier? It's just random. Like if you get lucky with your spellcasting, he's bottom of S tier. If you get unlucky, then he's at the top of A tier. That's basically how it is. It's just weird character. Okay, and then we've got Echoed Hellbrass. So this character is available to all the factions that are available to get him, except I don't think the Demon Prince can get access to him. So Echoed Hellbrass is alright. Very similar character to Harold Hammerstorm, in my opinion. This guy is kind of the Tzeentch healer. So very useful for Tzeentch factions, because they don't have access to healing otherwise. Very useful for hero-based armies. So if you want to have like a whole bunch of champions of or exalted heroes of Tzeentch, this guy here is able to heal them. Also useful for other single entity-based armies. Pretty decent fighter. Has some decent bound abilities. Pretty good. So I'm going to put him similar tier as... I'm going to put him right next to Harold Hammerstorm, because he doesn't boost the army by as much in terms of overall stats, but healing is boosting the army. So he's just a really good healer. All I have to do is like go over to him and just stand next to him, but he doesn't get a mount, so he can be a bit slow. So moving him around the battlefield can take a little while, and sometimes you just need him in places that he's not, and it just takes a while to get there. I mean, it's the same sort of thing with Harold Hammerstorm anyway. So he's more about killing the enemy forces, and this guy here is more about survivability. So both has a lot of value. One of the weird things with Echoed Hellbrass, though, is he also increases the replenishment rate of enemy units that are in the province as well. So he replenishes everyone. He doesn't heal everyone on the battlefield, but does provide replenishment on the campaign map. So weird guy there. Okay, and then we've got Croak. So the last legendary hero, saving the best to last, really. But Legend, you said Ariel was the best. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, so with Croak is available to any of the Lizardman Legendary Lords, but if you're playing as Itza, you start off with Croak. Croak is extremely powerful at taking out mass amounts of infantry. Very cheap spellcaster, as in doesn't use up a lot of winds of magic, but also has some really good abilities for boosting the entire army just in terms of ward save by using his barrier ability, which is like twice as good as what their regular slan are able to get. Doesn't provide any like actual stat boost for the army outside of that. He's also quite useful as a hero going around and basically smiting cities. So I don't particularly use him that way, but you can if you want. Provides some good bonuses for like replenishment when attached to the army as well. And he comes with all of his own equipment, so you don't need to use any of your own like blue equipment or anything like that. So he's already kitted out to the max essentially. But overall, he is obviously very bad in melee, as all Slans are. And if you're going up against an enemy that doesn't have that much infantry, then Croak is not going to be as useful. This is why I think that Ariel is a little bit better than Croak, because she's got capabilities of taking out single entities, whereas Croak is bad at that. And single entities will always be your most dangerous forces. Most enemies that you go up against, especially in the early game, will have mass amounts of infantry, and that's where Croak is just going to annihilate entire armies. But if you go up against that one army that just doesn't have that many infantry, Croak might let you down, where Ariel, I mean different factions, Ariel could succeed. Now, Croak is still going to go into S tier, but in my opinion, he's just one step below Ariel. But if you were to say, oh, I think that Croak is better than Ariel, I'm not going to argue with you. They're both, you know, neck and neck. I think that Ariel is a little bit better. Anyway, that's my rating there. Obviously, I've more heavily rated these characters more toward being good, and these ones here are the ones that I would really like to see getting some degree of a bit of a boost. And I don't even know, like putting Vlad on this tier list here was a bit weird in the first place. I hope I reasoned as best as I could as to why he goes into that spot there. Obviously, very strong character, just I think you should choose him as a Legendary Lord personally and have Isabella as a Legendary Hero. I think that's a better choice, and that's why I put him in B tier. So these ones here, they're okay. They're basically where they should be, and everyone else is like providing a lot of value. And the S tier ones, I think, are kind of maybe overpowered a little bit. But anyway, that's my rating there. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this tier list, whether you agree or disagree. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe there's something that I missed. Maybe there was something like a global bonus that these guys were providing that I just overlooked. So just let me know if I missed something that was potent. Obviously, I'm not going to mention things that I think are super like impotent. Like if someone's got +1 leadership faction-wide to all units on a Wednesday, I'm not going to mention that because who fucking cares? So if you're going to mention it, it's got to be something that's actually useful. Like, for example, with Ariel, being able to provide global bonuses to Lord and Hero recruit rank +3, that's potent. So those are the kind of things that I want to mention. But if it's like +1 relation with a faction on a Wednesday, yeah, don't care. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you're interested in Manscaped, link in the description and pinned comments. Big thanks to them once again for sponsoring this video. Always love working with Manscaped. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Later, guys.